What is up, everybody? It's Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload every single day. Now, I'm here to talk about the NBA playoffs because the NBA playoffs are in full swing and there is a ton going on right now. But the biggest story is that the Los Angeles Clippers have fallen to 2-0 to the Dallas Mavericks, and things are not good right now. The Clippers are struggling, guys. The Clippers are struggling, and they're down 0-2 to Luka Doncic. And they have zero answers to Luka. They have zero answers for the Dallas Mavericks. They have zero answers, and they look like the frauds that they've been since they acquired their two superstars, right? Like they're two stars, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Since they've been there, they've been nothing but a disappointment for the team. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now let's dive into the Clippers' 127-121 loss to the Dallas Mavericks. They had 2 games at home, and they have lost both games because Luka simply is unguardable. They can't do anything with Luka Doncic. The third-year player had 39 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Now, besides the fact that he scored 39 points, right? Like that is impressive in and of itself. But let's think about this, guys. Let's think about this. The Clippers were supposed to have the 2 best or the 3 best wing defenders in the NBA, or 3 of the best wing defenders in the NBA: Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Patrick Beverley. Remember what Russell Westbrook told us a long time? Pat Bev just be fooling y'all, man. He don't really be playing defense out there. He be tricking y'all. Russell told us that years ago. But I guess it's just now getting to us that Russ was telling the truth the entire time. Because every time Luka has the ball, it doesn't matter who's guarding him. He wants Patrick Beverley guarding him. He calls for the screen for whoever Patrick Beverley is guarding. Patrick Beverley comes and picks him up, and then Luka goes to work. If you watch the games, I swear it's every single rip. Shout out to Kevin Campbell. Pat Bev is just out there for conditioning. Absolutely. And that's what it looks like. Because every single time Luka Doncic has the ball, whoever Patrick Beverley is guarding, he tells to come guard him. He gets the switch. He gets the screen. Patrick Beverley every single time switches because he has pride and he says he's one of the better defenders in the league. And Luka bodies him and babies him and tells him he's too small and he's too little. And he's proven it every single time. Quintez Johnson, shout out to Quintez Johnson, says Rajon Rondo didn't play well and neither did Marcus Morris. Marcus Morris played horrible. Marcus Morris has played horrible, and a lot of folks thought Rondo was going to be the savior for the Clippers because of the way he played last season for the Lakers. Now, Rondo is a good player. Playoff Rondo is supposedly even better player, right? And I'm from Louisville, so I love me some Rajon Rondo. But this team is built around 2 guys that are supposed to be the stars, supposed to be the superstars. And that's not, and Rajon Rondo is neither one of those guys. Those guys are Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. The reason why the Clippers are disappointing is because of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. We cannot let them off the hook. Now, Kawhi finished with like 40. Let me tell you exactly. Kawhi finished with 41 points. 41 points. It's really good. Even Paul George had 28. He had 28, 12, and 6. But the problem is that this team is supposed to be built around defense. Shout out to Progressive Properties B1 always. Put your hashtag B1s in the chat. Always hashtag B1. But anyway, the problem is this team is supposed to be built around defense. And a lot of people felt that the Dallas Mavericks were better than the Clippers last season. Remember the 2 teams played in the bubble last year. And the Clippers won that series after a bad call on Porzingis at first, and then Porzingis gets hurt. And they still couldn't guard Luka. He had a game winner. He had multiple games over 30 points. He probably had a 40-pointer in there too. And they couldn't guard Luka then. but they were able to eke it out. Now, this Dallas Mavericks team who came into the playoffs really hot, really rolling, they're not afraid of the Clippers. And the Clippers have already shown that they will disappoint in the playoffs. They disappointed last year before they got to the conference finals against against the Denver Nuggets, being up 3-1. And now, after two home games, they're down 0-2 to the Dallas Mavericks, headed to Dallas. Dallas has an opportunity to sweep these dudes. Dallas has an opportunity to sweep these guys. No defense, absolutely, Motown House. No defense whatsoever. And now Dallas has a chance to sweep this series with 2 games in Dallas. Now, I don't think they'll sweep the Clippers. I think the Clippers are too good of a team and have too much pride to actually get swept. But that is a possibility. That is now on the table. What makes this even more interesting, right? Like what makes this case even crazier, the fact that Dallas is up 2-0 after 2 games in LA, is the fact that the Clippers, if you guys don't know, the Clippers tanked. They lost their last 2 games of the regular season to play Dallas. They wanted to play Dallas. They fell from the 2 seed to the 3 seed so they could avoid the Lakers. That was the number one reason. They lost the games because they wanted to avoid the Lakers for as long as possible. So they went from the 2 seed to the 3 seed to avoid the Lakers and to play the Dallas Mavericks because they felt like they could do whatever they want to Dallas. They felt like that they could, they felt like they beat Dallas last year in the first round. Then they could handle them again this year in the first round. How is that plan working? How is that plan working? Absolutely, Kevin. They've tanked just to get bounced in the first round. And what makes this even sweeter or bittersweet if you're a Clippers fan, you're going to lose in the first round to Dallas this year. You lost last year in year 1 of the Kawhi Paul George experience. You lost last year in the second round after being up 3-1 over Denver, and you lost to them in the second round. You're going to lose in the first round this year. You're not going to get swept because I don't believe you're going to get swept because I think you're a better team than that. But you lost year 1 of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George experience. You lost in second round in year 1. In year 2, you're going to lose in the first round. In year 3, you're going to lose. You're not even going to make it to the conference finals. You might not make the playoffs the way the trend is going. But the significance of year 3 is that after year 3, Kawhi Leonard's gone because this experiment has been a failure. Think about it. This experiment has been a failure. This experiment has been a failure. And so therefore, Kawhi Leonard, he's not going to sit around. He didn't come to LA to the Clippers to lose. Now, he damn sure he went to the wrong team in LA, but that's a whole different debate. But he didn't come to the LA Clippers or come to home to play basketball to lose. If that was the case, he could have stayed in Toronto. He had a better chance of winning if he stayed in Toronto. Now, he wouldn't have won because the Nets did what they did over in Brooklyn, and we'll get to that. But he came to LA to be the new king of LA. Remember the commercial? The little king pendant dangling from the steering wheel from the ignition? That's what Kawhi Leonard came to LA for. That's what he did, right? Like, am I wrong? Am I bugging? Ain't that what he came to? He came to LA to be the new king of LA, right? Come on, talk to me. Pat Bev's too small. Absolutely. Luka's telling him every rip, you're too small. Get rid of George. See, shout out to CJ. Shout out to my boy Brashawn as well. See, so Charles, here's the thing. They can't get rid of Paul George because unlike Kawhi, that's why I say Kawhi's going to bounce after year 3 because he has an opt-out after year 3. Paul George just signed an extension this past offseason. He did 4 more years. So Paul George is locked in. And that contract, after people watch what he does in the playoffs, unless you send him to Detroit or Sacramento or, you know what I mean, like some team that doesn't have a chance of winning anything, that contract's immovable. Nobody, absolutely nobody is going to try to make a move for Paul George. Absolutely nobody. Because Paul George hasn't proven that he can win a playoff series or make noise in the playoffs since he was in Indiana. Think about it. When he was with Westbrook and the Thunder, they got bounced in the first round by Dame. He was with the Clippers. They blew a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets. And now this year, they're down 0-2 in the first round of the playoffs to the Mavericks, the team that they tanked to come, the team that they tanked to play against. I mean, this is incredible, guys. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Clippers aren't a threat because there's no true leader on the team. So Kevin, you make a good point right here. There's no true leader on the team. That was the purpose of bringing in Rajon Rondo. They brought in Rondo to be that leader that Kevin is talking about. They brought in Rondo because think about it. Last year, the Clippers blew the 3-1 lead, and they had all of these excuses. They said it was Doc Rivers' fault. They said Doc was the problem because Doc has blown 3-1 leads before. They said Montrezl Harrell thought he was better than what he really was. So Montrez was the problem. So they shipped Montrez out. They said Lou Williams and Lemon Pepper Lou going to strip clubs and getting wings and all and leaving the bubble and all of these things was the problem. So they shipped Lou out. Everybody was the problem. Everybody, they had all of these excuses. And so they said, man, we need more shooters. So they brought in Luka Doncic, and they were one of the better three-point shooting teams in the entire league. They were, I think they led the league in three-point percentage. The Clippers, they led the league in three-point percentage and free throw percentage. They led the league in two of the most important categories in the entire game this year. But somehow, some way, they're down 0-2 to the Mavericks and Luka Doncic. I mean, good God almighty. Good God almighty. The Clippers, what is going on? They're the biggest frauds. So now the question that I pose to you guys, are the Clippers, once they lose this first round from 0-2 after losing the first two home games, I think they can come back and make it a series, but I don't think they have a chance in hell of winning this series, right? So now the question is, are the Clippers the biggest frauds in the history of the NBA? Who are bigger frauds than them? They lose this series. If they lose this series and they go out in the first round to the Dallas Mavericks, are they the biggest frauds in the history of the NBA? That is the question I pose to you guys. Leave your thoughts in the chat. Are they the biggest? Who are bigger frauds than the Clippers? Because every super team, in the recent, let's just do recent super teams, right? Every recent super team, let's say since the Miami Heat created their team in 2011, every super team since Miami created their team in 2011 has done what they're supposed to do. Miami won a chip. Maybe they didn't live up to the expectations we thought they should have, but they all won a championship. Miami won a championship. That super team won. That super team won. Let's see. The Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James' second super team, that they won a championship. Golden State Warriors, that super team, when Kevin Durant came and joined, they won a championship. Now the Brooklyn Nets are the most recent super team outside of the Clippers. Oh, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, they came together, they won a championship. Now the Brooklyn Nets are the most recent super team other than the Clippers. But Brooklyn looks pretty doggone good. Now Brooklyn still has to go out and do it. But who's going to bet against the Nets? And we'll get to them later, but who's going to bet against James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant? They look like a team that's going to win the championship, or they could win a title. Now someone said the 2011 Heat team lost. Yes, they lost. That's why I said they might have been a slight disappointment, but in 4 years, they did win 2 championships, and it was back-to-back. We can't ignore that. You can't tell the history of the NBA without mentioning the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat with LeBron James. They did win 2 championships during a 4-year span, and LeBron James won 4 MVPs in a 5-year span. You can't tell the history of the NBA without talking about those Miami Heat teams. So, like I said, every team that was a super team that was created since the 2011 Heat have won a championship, have done what they're supposed to do. The Clippers can't even make it to the Western Conference Finals. Now, if that ain't a problem, I don't know what is. Steve Ballmer is the richest owner in NBA. He didn't put together Kawhi Leonard and trade away his entire future, his entire draft picks and all of his future, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 5 first-round picks, move heaven and earth to get Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and bring them together to go out in the first round, to tank games at the end of the regular season and play the Dallas Mavericks and to go out in the first round. Now, am I crazy? when I say, wow, like this is not what he put the team together to do. Right? Like he didn't put this team together. He didn't put this team together to go out in the first round. I mean, come on. Shout out to Wesley. Wesley says Jerry West needs to come back to the Lakers. I mean, yeah, Jerry West was supposed to be the fixer. Remember, Doc was the problem. Lou Will was the problem. Montrezl Harrell was the problem. They got rid of all of them. Jerry West brought in, Ty Lue. Said we're gonna make Ty Lue the guy because Ty Lue can fix these things. Ty Lue knows how to be. That's the thing. The Clippers worry too much about the Lakers and worry too much about LeBron James and worry too much about beating LeBron and beating the Lakers on games like Christmas and building up and creating a roster that can beat the Lakers. And they forget about the rest of the league. Like you do know there's 29 other teams besides the Lakers, or 28 other teams besides the Lakers. Like there's a ton of other teams in the NBA that don't wear the purple and gold. Like you should probably worry about beating the Dallas Mavericks. like, come on. Like the Clippers have built their whole, mantra, their whole roster, their whole persona about we're the kings of LA and we're the better team. And we're not in the basement anymore. And we're not the little brother and yada, 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 and this and that. And we can beat the Lakers and we can beat LeBron and we can beat AD and we the real team in LA. And Luka's like, hey, guys, hey, before you get to those guys, the guys in the penthouse of Staples, and you're in the basement, you gotta beat a 20-year-old Slovenian, a 21-year-old, a 21-year-old guy that's just been lighting up the league for 3 years. Like, hey, I'm here. Or 22, how old Luka is. He's under 23. It's like, hey guys, I'm right here. You gotta do something with me first. By the way, here's 39 on your way out. Here's 39 on your way to Dallas. We'll meet you in American Airlines or wherever it's called in Dallas. We'll meet you in Mark Cuban's house. Because we're taking this series a 2-0 back to Dallas. So the Clippers, man, biggest frauds in NBA history as of right now. I mean, I can't think of a team. I can't think of a team that had this much hype, this much star power, 2 or 3 wing defenders, Serge Ibaka in the middle to block shots as the center. All of this defense, all of this offense, Ty Lue, championship coach. Rajon Rondo comes over, championship experience, championship pedigree. Kawhi Leonard's got 2 finals MVPs. And to be down 0-2 to the Dallas Mavericks, not 0-2 to the Lakers, not even 0-2 to the number 1 seed, to like Phoenix or to Utah or something. You're down, or you make it to the finals and be down 0-2 to Brooklyn or Philly, or you're down 0-2 to the Dallas Mavericks. Nah, man, I can't let that slide, G. I can't let that slide, man. They say they got to the finals. They still got to go to Brooklyn. They're not going to make it to the final, Charles. CJ, they're not going to make it to the finals, man. They can't even beat the Dallas Mavericks. They can't beat teams like the Nuggets and the Mavericks. You think they really have a chance against the Lakers in a 7-game series, or a chance against Philly in a 7-game series, or a chance against Brooklyn in a 7-game series? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Like, share, subscribe. It says the 2013 San Antonio Spurs lost 3 and maybe 4 Hall of Famers with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, but they also won 4 titles, 4 or 5 titles. Tim Duncan has 5 titles. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, they have like 3 or 4 titles. Kawhi Leonard's got 2 titles. So yeah, like they lost 1, but they won others. The Clippers haven't won anything. Clippers haven't gotten past the 2nd round. It looks like they're going to lose in the 1st round this year. So yeah, like there's like I said, there's teams that have disappointed and not won as many titles as we wanted them, or as we thought they should win, or as we thought they would win, but they won at least a title. The Clippers haven't even been to the conference finals yet, let alone win a title. Now, Brooklyn is still a question mark, and the Clippers, to an extent, they're still a question mark. This series is not over yet, but they are down 0-2 in the 1st round after 2 home games. Not 2 games in Dallas, 2 home games for a team that they tanked to play against. So we can't just ignore that. We can't just ignore that. Yeah. So yeah, that's like when you focus on one team, other teams creep up on you. Absolutely. And this is the second year in a row this has happened to the Clippers. Last year, they were so focused on the Los Angeles Lakers, right? They were so focused about beating the Lakers. They even, but they looked like they were focused on Denver for a while. They went up 3-1. And then because their mind was already game planning and doing all this stuff for LA, for LeBron and AD, they forgot they had a series against Denver. And so Denver in game 4 or game 5, down 3-1, won game 5. So now it's 3-2. Won game 6. Now it's 3-3. And took home game 7 in blowout fashion. Playoff P was hitting the side of the backboard. The Clippers were so discombobulated by game 7. I mean, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both played probably their worst games of their NBA career. Paul George hit the side of the dang backboard from the side. He's shooting from the corner and hits the side of the backboard, not the rim, the side of the backboard. It's incredible. He's a professional basketball player. Gets paid $30-40 million a year and hit the side of the backboard. Unacceptable. So yeah, the Clippers, man, they're the biggest frauds in NBA history. Leave in the chat if you can think of frauds that are bigger than the LA Clippers right now, because I can't think of any. So moving on away from Clipperland, loser. I don't like talking about teams that do a lot of losing. The Clippers throughout their history has done a whole bunch of losing. Let's talk about some teams that like to win, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. They tied up the series 1-1 against Phoenix. Now I feel bad for Phoenix because Chris Paul is just not himself. Well, depending on who you are, you saying he is himself, because it seems like every year during the playoffs, my guy, I love me some Chris Paul, but my guy CP3 always seems to get hurt, man. And this year is no different. He has a bad shoulder, and the Lakers took advantage of no CP3 on the court. They were able to win this one. It wasn't pretty, but they won this one 109-102. 7-point win. Anthony Davis had 34 points, but he scored like 20 points from the free throw line. So it was a puny 34. I mean, it was 34. Don't get me wrong, 34, 10, and 7. But it just seemed kind of puny. Like, I don't know. What do you call 34 points when you score 20 from the line? Like, it wasn't a dominant 34-point performance. It wasn't like he was just hitting jumpers and dunking on folks and doing all that. He was drawing a lot of fouls. So he had 34 points. The Lakers won this one 109-107. LeBron had a quiet 23-9-4, but he had 23-9-4 and hit a clutch fadeaway and a clutch 3 to kind of, sealed the game and made sure the Lakers would take home a victory. Andre Drummond had a huge first half. He finished with 15. He had a double-double in the first half, but he finished with 15 and 12. And then Dennis Schroeder scored 14 points in the first half, and he finished with 24, 3 and 3. The Lakers, like I said, take this 1-1. They steal home court from Phoenix, and they'll go to LA. They'll go to LA to play the next 2 games. And we understand that the Lakers are a better team than the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, the records don't show that. Phoenix is the 2 seed. LA is the 7 seed. But the Lakers are a better team. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. So the Lakers came out and did what they're supposed to do. Game 1 was such an anomaly and such a bad performance by Anthony Davis. But Anthony Davis hasn't been good all year. Like we're just being honest, Anthony Davis hasn't been Anthony Davis all season. And so last night, even though it was a weird 34 and he scored 20 of them from the free throw line, and especially late, had 8 to 10 points late because of the fouling, but from Phoenix to try to, get him to miss some, and he made all his free throws. He's a good free throw shooter. It was good to see him get, score 34 points, because sometimes guys like Anthony Davis, remember, Anthony Davis is a glorified Robin. He's not a Batman. He's not a team that's going to lead your team to a championship. But if he's on a team with a guy like LeBron James, he can be like the best, Robin in the world. Like him, Kyrie Irving, these are like championship level Robins, right? Like a Scottie Pippen is a championship level Robin. Kyrie Irving is a championship level Robin. Anthony Davis is a championship level Robin. And so they're not, like I said, they're not guys that are going to lead your teams to championships. Anthony Davis, when he was in New Orleans, not only like he could barely get him to the playoffs. When he get him to the playoffs, for the few times he did, he get bounced out in the first round. And there's nothing wrong with being a Robin. Everybody can't be a championship level Batman. Now you can be a Batman in the regular season, but Anthony Davis is a championship level Robin. Anthony Davis is a Batman like hell in the regular season. He scores a bunch of points and it has the PER. I want to say Anthony Davis has the third highest PER of all time. It's like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and like Anthony Davis, right? Because he's great in the regular season. In the playoffs, like he's just not going to lead your team to championship. But he is a championship level Robin to a guy like LeBron James. So when he doesn't show up, and LeBron James is still coming off ankle. I mean, LeBron James missed 30 games this year. He's coming off an ankle, like a severe ankle injury. Now, we could say he rests probably the last 10, but he is coming off a bad ankle injury. So Anthony Davis has to show up and play like Anthony Davis in order for the Lakers to be a championship team. So when he scores 34 points and grabs 10 rebounds and dishes out 7 assists, the Lakers are going to be really, really hard to beat. Because I still think LeBron James is feeling things out. He was still very passive and not very assertive in this game. If you watched it, he wasn't. He just simply wasn't. He wasn't assertive at all until the fourth quarter, until he made that fadeaway jump shot. He made the fadeaway turnaround on Michael Bridges, and then he hit the three. But he was still passing. Hell, he had one pass. He hit KCP with. KCP passed, I think, to Caruso, and Caruso either turned it over or shot a bad three. And LeBron James was in his, like, come on, man. You shoot. When I pass you the ball, you shoot the freaking ball. When I pass you the ball, shoot it. Don't pass it. I didn't pass you the ball to pass it. I passed you the ball to shoot it. And so that let me know he's still getting, still feeling things out. And the Phoenix Suns, especially without Chris Paul, shout out to Devin Booker. He's a great player. And DeAndre Ayton is playing out of his mind in these playoffs. But the Phoenix Suns without Chris Paul are a good feeler series. The Phoenix Suns without Chris Paul, with their injured Chris Paul, is a good series for LeBron in the Lakers to get their legs up under them and feel everything out. Kind of like, okay, this is how we want to do it. This is how we haven't played much together all season. Like it was a shorter season, and the two biggest stars missed most of it. It was a shorter season, 72 games, and the two biggest stars, Anthony Davis probably missed like 15 to 20 games, and LeBron James missed like 20 to 25 games. So it was a good feeler season. Get our legs up under us, get things together. And without Chris Paul, this Phoenix Suns team isn't the same. We know this. We know that Phoenix isn't the same. Last year, they were a team that missed the playoffs. They add Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, and now they're the number 2 seed in the West. They have the second best record in the entire NBA. That is the Chris Paul effect. That is the Chris Paul effect. AD needs to be more confident. Absolutely. So I needed a game like this. Even though it was 20 free throws, 34 and 10 rebounds will make anybody feel good. I think now he remembers, hey, I'm Anthony Davis. I'm Anthony freaking Davis. I'm an NBA champion. I have the third highest PER in NBA history. I'm an all-star. I'm an all-NBA. I'm an all-pro. I did this last year. Granted, it was the bubble, but I did it. I balled out in the playoffs. So he needed that game to remind himself of who he was because, like I said, he hasn't had a good season in Anthony Davis standards. He hasn't had a good season. He's missed a ton of games. He's been injured. And now he reminded himself he can still ball. Now, Devin Booker and the Clippers, I'm sorry, they don't really have a chance. I mean, they don't really have a chance to win any more games if Chris Paul isn't healthy. Not to just win the series. They're not going to win the series. I didn't ever think they were going to win the series. I don't think they have a chance of winning another game if Chris Paul isn't healthy. Chris Paul played 23 minutes, scored 6 points. 23 minutes and scored 6 points. And then they asked Monty Williams after the game, and he was just like, yo, I'm looking at him, and he is not himself. He's holding his shoulder. He's missing shots he normally makes. He just looks uncomfortable out there on the court. He can't really, you know what I'm saying? Because he's suffering pain, he can't stay in front of anybody. So I pulled him. He wanted to play, but I pulled him. Now, luckily, they'll get a game or day or two to try to heal Chris up, but that's not going to be enough. And you can't expect, if you're Phoenix, you can't expect Cameron Payne to play like that every game. I mean, the man had 19 and 7 assists. He was hitting threes. He was driving past people, getting easy layups, showing off his quickness. But you can't expect Cameron Payne to score 19 and 7 assists every game. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just not realistic. It's not been him his entire career. He had an amazing game. But to expect him to do that over the course of a 7-game series, absolutely not. It's not going to happen. Yeah, DeAndre Ayton continues to play well, 22 and 10. And like I said, Book scored 31 points. Now, granted, the Lakers fouled him 3 straight possessions at the end of the game on 3-pointers. So he scored 9 points in the last 30 seconds of the game off free throws. But he still had 31. I'm not going to take that away from him. But you can't expect Cameron Payne to have 19 and 7 every game. And with Chris Paul hurt, it's going to be very, very difficult. Very, very difficult for them to win another game. In this series. So that's the Lakers. That's on the recap. That's the Clippers, the Lakers. And last team I want to talk about is the Brooklyn Nets. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. The Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are nasty, y'all. They won 130-108 over Boston. Boston's quit on this season. Boston quit on the season a long time ago, though. I hate to say it, but I mean, that's just the way their play looks like. It doesn't look like they want to be there. It looks like they want to go home. Brooklyn's going to sweep this series. Kevin Durant had 26, 8, and 5. Joe Harris lit it up. I think he had 6 or 7 threes. He had 25 points. Blake Griffin was dunking all over the Celtics. He had 11. Kyrie had a measly 15. James Harden just 20. But they cruised, though. I don't think Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, they ain't played a fourth quarter. Like, they were up 30 after, 30 at halftime, right? So they were able to play a bunch of players and get a bunch of guys on the stat sheet. Brooklyn's a problem, guys. Brooklyn is a problem. Now, I know people love to say, oh, James Harden in the playoffs. Oh, James Harden. Oh, he's not the same player in the playoffs as he is when he's in the regular season. And Kyrie Irving, he's missed so many games, and we don't know if he loves basketball anymore. And maybe he should retire. I remember Stephen A was saying Kyrie Irving should retire, and all this, man, all it is, yada, yada, yada. The Brooklyn Nets are a problem. What was the thing I was telling you guys early in the broadcast? I was saying since 2011, since the Heat put together their big three, so since the creation of these player-oriented, player-driven super teams, most of them, all of them have won a championship. The Heat won 2 titles. The Warriors, when Kevin Durant joined, won 2 titles. The Lakers, when they got Anthony Davis and LeBron James, won a title. The only team that's disappointed are the Clippers. They're the ones that can't seem to get out of the second round. But Brooklyn, not only have they put together 2 superstars when they had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, they went out and traded for James Harden. They went out and got James Harden, the most lethal weapon in the NBA. Call it what you want, the most lethal offensive weapon in the entire NBA. It's like James Harden and Luka Doncic are the 2 most lethal offensive threats in the NBA, and James Harden's number 1. He's over Luka. Luka's nice, but James is on a different planet because he's done it for a decade now. And just the thing, just a quick side note, Miami could have had Luka Doncic. Could have had James Harden. They decided they wanted to keep Tyler Hero and not trade him in a package for James Harden. And look how that's working for Miami. They're getting blown out by Milwaukee every night. And James Harden and Brooklyn Nets are going to sleepwalk to the Eastern Conference Finals at least. You know what I mean? So shout out to Tyler Hero. They said he'd become a celebrity in Miami, and now he forgot how to play basketball or something. And James Harden is now with the Nets, and that's probably going to get the Nets a championship because, like I said, since 2011, since the creation of these super teams, they have all won at least 1 title. So therefore, go back to the Nets. The Nets are a real problem out east, and they're going to be a problem for any team that they play. They're going to be a problem for the Lakers if they see them in the finals. They're going to be a problem for Milwaukee. They're going to be a problem for the Sixers. Now, granted, people love to talk. Okay, the Nets, they don't play defense. And Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and James Harden doesn't show up in the playoff. Man, bump all of that. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant are healthy and they're champions. They're healthy and they're champions. And James Harden has never played on a team like this. Kyrie has. You know, Kyrie played with LeBron for 4 years. He's played on a team that's pretty great, pretty dominant. Kevin Durant clearly has. He played for the Golden State Warriors when they had Clay, a healthy Clay, Steph, Draymond. So they played on championship teams. James Harden's never played on a team like this. He's never played when he can look to his right and see Kevin Durant and look to his left and see Kyrie Irving. Now, he played on an OKC team with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. Man, they were babies, y'all. They were babies. And James Harden wasn't James Harden yet. Like, he was sixth man of the year, James Harden. He wasn't MVP of the league, averaging 35 points a game, James Harden. He wasn't that guy yet. He had to go to Houston to become that guy. And now that he's that guy, and you give him Kevin Durant, NBA champion, probably the most lethal offensive weapon in the history of the NBA, and Kyrie Irving, NBA champion with the best handles in the history of the NBA, to go with James Harden, the most lethal weapon on the offensive side of the ball in the NBA right now, yeah, it's gonna be a different James Harden in the playoffs. It's gonna be a different James Harden in the playoffs. He's gonna show you his full bag, offensive arsenal, because he's back into his James Harden point guard bag right now. He's literally a true point guard. James Harden's so versatile. Kyrie Irving plays off the ball, and James runs the offense. He gets Kyrie his shots. He gets Kevin Durant his shots. And then when he needs to, he gets himself his step back, vintage step back, sidestep shot. James Harden is that dude, y'all. We're not going to play with James like that. He is a stud. CJ says Harden gets to show his playmaking skills, which is overshadowed by his scoring ability. He can score 29 to 22 points per game, but he affects the court like no other I've seen in a long time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because like I said, for the last, almost decade in Houston, James had to be the primary scorer. Now James is sitting back like, yo, I got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I can get in my point guard bag and get them the ball. And then when time need be, whether they're on the bench or they just need me to get a bucket, I can get a bucket. And there's literally no stopping me. There's no stopping James Harden when he wants to score. It has yet to be done in the last 10 years. It's yet to be done. Anybody stop James Harden when he wants to score? Ain't nobody stopping the Nets if they play like they did last night. Absolutely. I still like the Lakers. I still like the Lakers in the Nets-Lakers series. I like the Lakers because I need to see somebody knock off LeBron James. I need to see somebody knock off LeBron James. I think the Nets are more talented, deeper, have better players, but I got a lot of faith in GOAT James. If I'm going to say LeBron's the GOAT, I'm going to say he's going to beat the Nets, but that might just me being silly, but I still like the Lakers, though. I still like what the Lakers can do, but the Nets are tough, man. When Joe Harris is knocking down 6-7 threes, the Nets are almost impossible to beat. Because James can shoot. We know Kyrie can shoot and score and get in his bag and do whatever he wants on the court. Kevin Durant the same way. Same with James Harden. And when you add a third piece or fourth piece rather, like Joe Harris, who can score 25 points in 29 minutes, who can hit 6, 7, 8 threes in a game, and Blake Griffin can dunk on some folks and get the crowd hype. He don't need to score a bunch of points. Just put me down a couple of them dunks. A couple of those dunks he had last night had Brooklyn at the Barclays shaking. Man, Brooklyn's going to be a tough out. Now, the thing is, can they guard the post? Their post defense has been horrible all season. Joel Embiid is going to give them problems. Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to give them problems. I want to say Giannis is averaging like 35 a game. They played Brooklyn like 2 or 3 times, and Giannis is averaging 35 a game, including a game he had like 40 and 15 or something. So they're going to have to figure out a way to try to guard the post. But when their guys are on, they're a very, very hard team to beat. Shout out to Mace, man. He says Lakers in 4. Lakers in 4, I don't know, man. They ain't sure wouldn't be no 4. Lakers need to finish off the Suns. I don't think they'll have to worry too much about the Suns, especially since Chris Paul's hurt. And he probably will be hurt the entire series. He won't be right before the end of this series. But Brooklyn is a problem. Brooklyn is a really, really, really tough team. It's going to be the ultimate defense versus the ultimate offense. Absolutely. Because the Lakers play really good defense. And as we know, Brooklyn be in a bag and score a bunch of points. So we will have to see. That is going to be interesting to watch. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see what Brooklyn does. But the Clippers, so to just circle back, shout out to Orlando. Hello to you, Orlando. To circle back to my original topic of this video, and then I'll get out of here. The Clippers, the Los Angeles Clippers. They're the biggest frauds in NBA history. Since the creation of the super team in the 2011 version, the player-oriented, the player-driven super team, not the super teams that were created in like the 70s and 80s and 90s in early 2000s by teams just drafting really well. You know, Golden State drafts Clay, Steph, and Draymond, and they come together and create a super team, and they win a championship. And we ain't talking about that. We ain't talking about the Lakers, trading for Kareem, somehow getting the number 1 overall pick, getting Magic, and getting another number 1 overall pick, and getting James Worthy, and creating a super team. We ain't talking about that. We ain't talking about the Celtics drafting Bird, McHale, you know what I mean? And then acquiring Robert Parrish, who wasn't that good in Golden State, and that creating a super team. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about the super teams, player-driven, player-oriented. Hey, you're good. I'm good. Let's go play with each other. LeBron James, star power, player movement, player-oriented super teams since 2011. So we're going to take it in 2011 when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh created a super team in Miami. Since 2011, all the super teams that where the players said, hey, we're friends. Hey, you're really good. I'm really good. Let's all play with each other. Like AAU basketball, they made the NBA AAU. Since that, every super team that kind of came together like that has won a championship. At least one. At least one. The question mark is still out on Brooklyn, but like I said, the Miami Heat did it. They won 2 titles in 4 years. Golden State Warriors went to 5 straight titles and won back-to-back titles with Kevin Durant when he decided to join them. The Lakers with Anthony Davis and LeBron James won a title last year. There's a question mark still out on Brooklyn because it's their first year playing together. But the one team that has been together at least one season, and now they're in year 2, that hasn't and is look like they won't again this year, are the Los Angeles Clippers. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Paul George is in OKC, minding his business. Kawhi Leonard went to Steve Ballmer, went to Jerry West, went to all those guys in the front office. Lawrence Frank, and said, hey, I want to come to LA. I want to play for the Clippers. I have one condition. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, those guys, they're not good enough. Lou Williams, they're not good enough. I need this guy. I need PG. Go get me Paul George. I'm coming to the Clippers. So the Clippers moved heaven and earth to get Paul George, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's a future All-Star, and 5, count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first-round draft picks to bring Paul George to Los Angeles. And all it's gotten them is a blown 3-1 lead in the second round of the playoffs to the Denver Nuggets. A blown 3-1 lead. Fired their coach, shipped out Montrez, shipped out Lou Williams because they were the problems. And now they're down 0-2 to the Dallas Mavericks. Now they're down 0-2 to Dallas after playing 2 home games, and they're headed to Dallas, down 0-2. That's all getting Paul George and Kawhi Leonard has gotten them so far. Now, my holy king, you're absolutely right. Clippers can still win. They can. They can still win. But it's an uphill battle. It's not going to be easy. Yes, Utah blew a 3-1 lead. Absolutely. But have you watched those first 2 games? Have you watched Luka Doncic? Have you seen a way in 2 years? Have the Clippers been able to stop Luka Doncic in 2 years? They couldn't stop him last year in the playoffs neither. And in 2 years, the man's averaging almost 40 in 2 series against the Clippers. And you got to think, the Clippers tanked the last 2 games of the regular season. They were the 2 seed. They were going to play the Lakers in the first round. They tanked the last 2 games they sat their starters. They tanked the last 2 games of the regular season so that they could play the Dallas Mavericks. And all that's gotten them is an 0-2 start after 2 games at home. Now they're heading to Dallas down 0-2. You're absolutely right, my holy king. The Clippers can still win this series. Absolutely. I'm not counting them out completely. I don't think they're going to win, though. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're going to win, but you're absolutely right. They can still win this series. They're fighting an uphill battle. And Luka and the Dallas Mavericks see blood in the water. They see it. It's blood in the water. It's blood in the water. My holy king, you think they'll come with a new game plan and play Boogie? Have they played Boogie? I don't know, man. I don't know. Because playing Boogie doesn't stop Luka from switching and getting Patrick Beverly and doing whatever the hell he wants to Pat Bev. And then when they bring the double team, the shooters for Dallas are knocking down shots. Tim Hardaway Jr., Kristaps Porzingis making plays. So I don't know. Kermit, you're right. The Clippers are such a disappointment. Or the Mavs. The Mavs are a good team. I'm not going to act like the Mavs are no scrubs. The Mavs can play. But this is about the Clippers. Because the Clippers were supposed to be the new team, the new kings of LA. Kawhi Leonard had commercials saying he was the new king of LA. He had billboards saying he was the new king of LA. He had New Balance ads and New Balance gear that said he was the new king of LA. And all he's done since he's been declared the new king of LA is blow a 3-1 lead to Denver in the second round of the playoffs, load managed 2 straight seasons, and now down 0-2 to the Dallas Mavericks after 2 home games. Now you're headed to Dallas down 0-2 and can easily be down 0-3 after game 3 in Dallas. So, yeah, my holy king, you're right. You battle to the end. Absolutely. You absolutely do. You're absolutely right. You have to battle to the end, but things do not look good for the Clippers. That's all I got to say. Thank you guys. Once again, I'm Jeff Lightsy Jr. at the Black Boss Channel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe on your way out. Shout out to Husky. He came in late. Kawhi picked the wrong destination. I got the wrong destination. He's still a baller. The team just not built to win. No, yeah, you're right, Husky. And I'm going to answer this and let me get out of here. The team is built to beat the Lakers. The only problem is outside of the Clippers and Lakers, there's 28 other teams. There's 28 other teams in the NBA. There's 13 other teams in the Western Conference. You can't just focus your sole attention on beating one team when you have to get past the other teams. And one of those other teams happens to have a kid by the name of Luka Doncic who is unguardable, who's not very fast, who can't jump very high, who doesn't have the best jump shot, but he is a killer. When it comes to that basketball court, he's unguardable. He's a killer. And that's a problem. That has been a major, major problem for the Clippers. Kawhi's a baller. Like you said, Husky, he's a stud. He had 30 points in the first half. He only had 11 in the second, and even less in the fourth. That's not coming up big when the team needs you the most. When you're going to declare yourself the new king of LA, when LeBron's there and the Lakers are there, it's tough, man. That's tough. They're the biggest disappointment of super teams since 2011. All the other super teams, not only did they win titles, hell, they got out of the first and second round. At least made it to the conference finals. They made it to the finals. They won titles. This team struggling in the first round. This team lost in the second round after being up 3-1 last year. Very, very disappointed in the Clippers. But maybe they can turn it around in game 3. We'll see. But as of right now, they're down 0-2 and they're headed to Dallas, and it's not looking good. But once again, I'm Jeff Lightsy Jr. at the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe on your way out, and follow me on Instagram at JLightsy7. I post stuff on there all the time, and also on Victory Formation Sports Show. I post content on there all the time, from clips to highlights to segments of this podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Peace.